Good day. Over the last 6 years, in Department of Family Medicine in Medical College of Georgia, we had studied the no-show characteristics of our patient population. The study started with understanding what interventions increases the compliance to patients' appointments, and it subsequently attempted to understand the root causes of this phenomenon. In the last year, in lieu of my involvement in ADFM Leads project, gain additional insights on how we could study these behavior of recurring no-show patient populations behavior. In the next handful of minutes, we'll share with you the historical view and also where we anticipate landing hereafter. While this view makes complete sense to us, immediately for us, it made sense that the implications of no-show behavior starts with poorly controlled disease states to increase visits to emergency department and lack of continuity of care in the clinics, and also financial implications. These past studies were very helpful and gave us confidence that it was an effort that was worth understanding further. The first study focuses on nudge theory. We attempted to study what type of nudges makes more impact the patient population based on the categories of no-show. In 2017, we crafted 3 different cohorts. And the first cohort was one that had only one no-show behavior in that measurement period. Cohort 2 had 2 no-shows in 2017. And cohort 3 had 3 no-show behavior in that year. The foundations of interventions that we looked at was nudge theory. We looked at also practical staff reminder systems and patient education. In the subsequent slides, we will share what type of intervention worked and give you some insights on why that could have been the case. Our control group was one that did not require any intervention. They received the same reminder letters and reminder messages that every patient received. The crafted letter intervention was more adapted to social norm theory, where it nudged patients towards arriving at appointments and was sent at the beginning of the study. Crafted text message. This text message had an abbreviated social norm theory that prompted them to remember of their appointments 5 days prior or 1 day prior to an appointment. The scripted staff call intervention required a staff to personally call the patient 5 days prior to the appointment. Patients with one no-show behavior. We found that this cohort had very minimal improvement with regard to their compliance. And we also saw that when they received a letter at the beginning of the study, that had a more of an impact compared to getting a text message 5 days prior. Patients with 2 no-show behaviors, we saw that almost 10% improvement for this cohort when they received a letter at the beginning of the study and also 5 days prior to the appointment. Patients with 3 no-shows or more, we found that we had almost 20% improvement for this cohort when they received a letter at the beginning of the study, text 5 days prior, and also text 1 day prior to the appointment. Compared to our surprise, we found that calling the patients over the phone did not have a major impact in their compliance to the appointment. In summary, based on this intervention, we found that cohort 1 responded more favorably when they received a letter that spoke about the study and importance of the appointment. Cohort 2, which corresponds to two no-shows, responded better when they received a letter and text message. Now, cohort 3 responded optimally when they received text messages and also a letter at the beginning of the study. Our study number 2 was attempted to focus on why do patients do not really show up for the appointment? What was holding them back? Was it their socioeconomic status? Was it transportation? Or could there be any other reasons of considerations? As the slide speaks to the intent, we attempted to also uncover the motivation to keep the appointments. Not only we wanted to understand the reasons for no-show, but also what motivated them to keep for the appointment. And we also attempted to uncover the self-perception of health amidst patients with varying no-show histories. The study design and cohort. The study design was focused on why patients come to Family Medicine Center for their healthcare needs, why they may have missed their prior appointments, and how they manage to keep their appointments. And the cohort, fairly similar to the prior, or almost identical. Cohort 1 was for patients who did not have any no-show behavior. Stand corrected. This cohort is different from the prior cohort because in the prior cohort, it was 1 no-show behavior, whereas this had 0 no-shows. Group 2 was focused on patients who have 1 or 2 no-shows, whereas group 3 is focused on patients who have 3 or no-shows. Our key findings. We found that patients' importance of socioeconomics dimension played a critical role on their no-show behavior. Depending on the zip codes, their payers, and meaning their insurance sources, and if they had a job or if they did not have an employment base, all had an implication to their no-show behavior. Key finding 2. We also found that the main reason for patients to choose Family Medicine Center was their familiarity with the practice. And it supported our prior finding that the patient-provider relationship was key for them keeping an appointment. One other item that we also learned was if they had an existing relationship with another specialty provider in the medical office building where the clinicians practice, that logistics comfort played an important role for patients' familiarity and keeping up with the appointment. Key finding 3, no surprises. The most frequently cited reason for no-show was difficulty with timing, and most cited other reasons for scheduling issue. It could be that the appointment coincided with their family obligations, or with their job or employment employment availability coincided with the appointment, or they needed to take care of another family member. So this was a key finding that we learned on what held back patients to come for the appointment. Key finding 4, reminding patients of their appointment via automated reminders or personal call can be a critical strategy. Patients seem to enjoy or appreciate when we reminded them of their appointments either by calling or texting them. And this conformed to our study number 1. In a nutshell, the key findings of this to be published study was importance of socioeconomic status of a patient had a direct correlation to their show and no-show behavior. And also the familiarity of the practice and their relationship with other services that was provided in the health system had another consideration for their show or no-show behavior. The timing of their appointment was another consideration. And finally, patients found it was very important to have automated reminders or personal calls for their appointments. Our next study, upcoming study, is to focus on patients who have high prevalence of no-shows. We are going to focus on patients who have 3 or more appointments the way they miss. And we found that this cohort, highlighted at the bottom of this chart, had constitute the highest number of appointments where they do not show up compared to the other cohort of group 1 or 2 in consideration. Since they consisted with a high number, whereas they were small percentage, we felt it was important to understand why they do not show up for the appointments. And we also saw that this 3% of patients constituted to 21% of our total no-shows, and it had a dollar impact too. And part of this exercise, we anticipate reaching out to the patients and having a one-on-one or a group interview and wanting to appreciate their constraints that held them back or hold them back from coming for their appointments. Thank you.